You are standing quietly in a hallway reeking of antiseptic at Fort Bragg, taking a sip of stone-cold black coffee. The flickering fluorescent lights cast your reflection against the window pane. You look straight at that silhouette and know damn well you didn't walk into this hallway from nothing. The institution doesn't have the time to pick up scraps. You are 25 years old, 3 deployments. You are a prime asset of the elite 75th Ranger Regiment. The scythe of death has brushed past your face enough times for it to become boring. Your chest is pinned with medals from Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, rotting coordinates that the media is never allowed to name. You rub the calluses on your trigger finger. You've kicked down doors in Fallujah. You've fast roped from the belly of a Blackhawk, splitting the night to land on a nameless roof in Mosul at 2 in the morning. You are highly proficient at taking lives. You are arrogant. You are convinced you are reigning at the absolute apex of the military food chain. But then your eyes catch it. A small piece of paper pinned casually on the bulletin board right next to the coffee maker. The apex you are hallucinating about is, in reality, only the lowest step of a ruthless underworld. The paper bears no unit name, no insignia, no hollow, patriotic rallying cries. It only displays a building number, a time frame, and a dry, bureaucratic line about a rapid response unit. Curiosity mixed with hubris pulls you to push open the door of the quiet briefing room at that address. Inside, there are no flags, nor are there screaming drill instructors. There is only a man in civilian clothes, standing submerged in half-light. He speaks in a flat, soulless, and freezing tone. The attrition rate is always over 90%. He throws out an absurd contract. If selected, you will join an organization that does not exist, serving a command structure ready to disavow your existence the moment you fall. He doesn't say where you will go, doesn't say what you will do. He only leaves behind a muster date. You stand there, listening to your heart pound, erratically. The complacency of youth urges you to take it. You crave the challenge. You want to prove you are the ultimate surviving apex predator. But deep down in that moment, you are completely blinded to the organization's brutal, unwritten law. The system isn't hunting you. It is using your own massive ego as bait. They don't force you. They just crack the door open and let you voluntarily walk yourself into the slaughterhouse. You put your pen down on the contract. You have just personally signed the death warrant for your own identity. Rank 1. Selection candidate. The briefing room door closes, swallowing your last grand illusions. You leave behind your resume reeking of artillery smoke, stepping straight into the absolute silence of the Appalachian Mountains. 4 weeks. The selection phase. Rank 1. In the regular military, they mold you with deafening screams. The instructors flex, curse, and coerce. That is a support system, disguised as violence. But here, the institution wields a much more vicious weapon. Absolute indifference. You carry a 45-pound rucksack on your back. You walk 18 miles, 25 miles, then 40 miles trekking alone through fog-choked forests. They provide no route. No one tells you the coordinates of the finish line. No one sets a time limit. You navigate yourself using a scratched compass and bleeding feet. At each checkpoint, the evaluators in frayed jackets stand as motionless as statues. They don't yell. They don't encourage. They just flip open a notebook, make a mindless tally mark with a ballpoint pen, and toss you the next coordinate. Not a single word is spoken. That very silence is the most ruthless filter. It isolates you. It strips away every external psychological crutch, forcing you to cobble together scraps of motivation from the abyss of despair. The apathy drains your soul faster than any physical torture. All around you, the breaking begins in silence. Proud men who once braved life and death now quietly drop their rucksacks and sit down on the side of the trail. They raise a hand. A truck rolls up. They step into the back and evaporate from the organization forever. No ceremony, no humiliation, just a decisive blink of elimination. 120 men are thrown into the foggy woods. 12 walk out. You are one of those 12 remaining fragments. They walk up, informing you that you have been selected. You wait for an overwhelming wave of relief. You try to find a shred of pride, but your chest is empty. The exhaustion has incinerated every human emotion, leaving only a freezing realization at the base of your spine. Whatever is waiting ahead will be more merciless than what you just endured. You survived, but the human inside you has begun to die. Rank 2. Operator Training Course Student. It is the perfect emptiness following the brutal culling in the Appalachians that brings you to a new coordinate. You leave behind the fog-drenched woods to enter the gunpowder-choked hallways of the Operator Training Course. You are officially an OTC student, Rank 2. 6 months. Half a year for the institution to perform neurosurgery without a scalpel. Here, the superb combat skills you once took pride in at the Ranger Regiment suddenly become a bland introductory course. The organization doesn't teach you how to pull the trigger. They teach you how to completely neutralize the human before pulling it. You fire tens of thousands of rounds a week. You transition from rifle to pistol in less than a heartbeat. But the most fierce agony lies in the room-clearing drills, close quarters battle. Delta doesn't play make-believe. The hostages are real people. Flesh and blood teammates stand inches away from the paper targets. You must storm into the room, firing live rounds that graze their temples. There is no margin for trembling. Your chest tightens. Your brain screams danger warnings. If the bullet's trajectory deviates by a fraction of a second, hot blood will spill on the concrete floor. The system forces you to use brutal coldness to crush your conscience. Your nervous system is molded into chillingly precise killing algorithms. You learn to destroy any concept of safety. Locked doors, reinforced hinges, concrete walls. Explosives tear through them all in exactly 3 seconds. Before the people inside can even comprehend what's happening, reality has been decided. Next, you shed your skin to become a spy. How to forge a fake identity. How to sit in a hostile cafe without anyone noticing. You learn to perform ruthless field surgery, using a needle to decompress a teammate's tension pneumothorax right in the middle of a cramped hallway, while bullets shred the wall 6 feet above your heads. The human body here is just a biological machine that needs temporary patching to keep spitting lead. Graduation day finally arrives. No national anthem, no speeches, not a single family member is allowed to be present. The institution tosses a pager on the table. From the moment you pick it up, you officially bear the title of operator. You realize the first bitter lesson of dark power. When you reach the absolute pinnacle of a warrior, the only reward you receive is being permanently erased from the human world. Rank 3. Assaulter. The dry vibration of the pager pulls you out of your illusion of supremacy, dropping you with a thud to the bottom of a new food chain. You leave the grueling training course to step into an assault squadron. You are an assaulter, rank 3. 16 ghosts in a troop. You used to be the most exceptional guy out there. But here, among men carrying decades of bloodshed on their backs, you become an anonymous rookie. The institution begins to grind you down with an endless cycle. 10 months locked in a training cycle stateside, 2 months deployed downrange, or 6 months gone, 6 months home. You dump more rounds in a month than an entire infantry battalion unloads in a full year. You run through shattered rooms until violence is deeply embedded in your spinal cord. Enter, scan left, scan right, target, handoff, next room. The repetitive structure. Everything must be executed in absolute darkness, relying solely on sound and feel. The brain is forced to shut down the hesitation function, leaving only the reflexes of an industrial machine. And then, the first night of real combat calls your name. A coordinate whose name you are forever forbidden to know. Helicopters tear through the wind, touching down on a roof as small as a matchbox. The door is blown open by explosive overpressure. 90 seconds. Exactly 90 seconds to wipe out every existence inside. The target is a man whose face you only learned from a photo 6 hours ago. You flex cuff him, throw a sandbag over his head, shove him onto the helo. The most fierce torment of this rank doesn't come from taking a life, but from your own terrifying calmness. 4 hours after the raid, you sit at the forward operating base, quietly chewing a protein bar. You strip your weapon down to clean every part. You realize you will forget that man's face in the next 6 hours, because another target packet is about to be shoved into your hand. Life and death have been turned into a soulless administrative procedure by the organization. No trial. No one knows what you did tonight. That normalization of violence is the most toxic acid. It silently corrodes your conscience, turning you into a perfect execution tool, hollow and ruthless. Rank 4. Reconnaissance Operator. 3 years pass along with 200 times of kicking down nameless doors. It is the perfect silence forged from blood and corpses that uproots you from the scorched hallways, dropping you into a quieter, deeper abyss. The organization lifts you into the Recce Troop, rank 4, the sanctuary of the most elite ghosts. At this rank, the battlefield shrinks to an optical lens. You shed the heavy tactical armor, donning worn civilian clothes. You and 3 other men slip into denied areas on the map, where all comms are blacked out. No resupply, no quick reaction force, only silent darkness. You use an E-tool to dig a shallow grave for yourself. A hide site 300 meters from the target. 72 hours holding your breath under a miserable camouflage hide. You piss into plastic bottles, shit into Ziploc bags, because here, the slightest biological trace, the softest cough, is enough to trigger a death sentence. You are not allowed to flinch. Eyes glued to the target, you become a recording device running on flesh and blood. You log every license plate, every gap in the guard shifts, every trivial daily rhythm of those whose lives are about to be terminated. You realize the cruel distinction of this rank. Assault is violence compressed into a few explosive seconds. Recon, on the other hand, is a marrow-draining discipline dragged out over days and nights. The killer instinct inside you screams. Your nervous system twitches, demanding you pull the trigger, demanding you rush out and end the target standing casually smoking right before your eyes. But the unwritten law forces you to swallow that explosive urge down your gut. The ability to suppress the bloodlust, forcing yourself to lie rotting like an inanimate corpse deep in enemy territory, ravages your mind more horribly than any firefight. The institution doesn't just want you to know how to kill. It wants you to know how to imprison the monster inside you until it starts tearing at your own soul. Rank 5, Team Leader. It is precisely the ability to perfectly suppress your animal instincts in the mud pit that hoists you to a bloodier position. You leave behind the quiet reconnaissance binoculars, stepping into the suffocating planning room to shoulder the lives of 4 men. You become a team leader, rank 5. But rank here is a meaningless symbol. The structure of this organization is ruthlessly flat. An E7 NCO can absolutely issue orders to E8s. The institution fully understands that the rigidity of traditional military hierarchy only produces soulless corpses in small-scale operations. Survivability is the only metric. Intel tosses a packet on the table. Blurry photos, intercepted signals, guard change times. You absorb, calculate, and rehearse on the sand table. And at exactly 2 in the morning, you lead your team to kick down a rotting wooden door in a country with no name in the headlines. This is when brutal reality crushes you. The responsibility of this rank doesn't lie in marksmanship. It lies in the void of a quarter second. A silhouette turns the corner at the end of a dark hall, clutching a black object. Shoot or don't shoot? Is that object a gun, a cell phone, or a child wrapped in a blanket? Life and death, crime and justice, all compressed into a blink of an eye. If you hesitate, your team comes home in body bags. If you pull the trigger, that after-action report will be dissected by dozens of lawyers and generals for months in safe, air-conditioned rooms. They use peacetime law to judge a life-or-death decision you had to make in the darkest corner of hell. The unwritten law chokes you. You must carry all the psychological shrapnel yourself. Both the justified trigger pulls and the wrongful bloodstains that make you jolt awake at 3 in the morning. Your chest soaked in cold sweat. The deployment ends. You return to Fayetteville. You sit in a noisy bar with your teammates. Not a single word is uttered about the recent missions. The silence shared among men with blood on their hands is more genuine than 10,000 words of comfort. Your wife pours a glass of water, looks at your hollow cheekbones, and asks softly, "How was the trip, honey?" "Fine," you reply, staring blankly into space. She nods, quietly stepping back. She stopped prying years ago. In that exact moment, staring into the bottom of a melting pint of beer, you realize the organization didn't just train you how to take the enemy's life. The system succeeded in turning you into a stranger, permanently exiled within your own home. Rank 6. Troop Commander. The passing years and the emptied beer glasses in Fayetteville have silently eroded your final layer of armor. You step back from the narrow spearhead of the assault, falling back a beat to take over the lives of 20 men. You become a Troop Commander. Rank 6. 8 years submerged in darkness. Over 300 bloody operations. Your body is now a chronicle of necrosis. Eardrums torn by the overpressure of countless C4 breaching charges. Knees patched with cold titanium from bone-crushing falls off rooftops. Spinal discs compressed under the weight of tactical armor worn 14 hours a day. The VA will coldly stamp an 80% disability rating on your file, but the organization's unwritten law forces you to bury that paper. In the world of ghosts, admitting injury means admitting a limit. And a limit is an eviction notice. You grit your teeth, swallow painkillers, and figure out how to cheat the physical fitness tests in silence. You don't lead with cliché speeches. You command with the icy chill in your voice over the radio when the hallway is blocked by heavy fire, and the contingency plan must be activated in barely half a heartbeat. But the most ferocious torture of this rank isn't on the battlefield. It sits right on the silent wall at the end of the unit's hallway. A memorial wall the public will never know about. You drag your feet past it every dawn. You know every face by heart. They aren't subordinates. They are brothers who bled dry alongside you across 3 continents. Their kids call you uncle. Their wives only trust calling you when a pipe bursts or a light bulb burns out, because you are the only remaining fragment connecting them to the dead. Taking a deep drag of a cigarette before the silent wall, you realize the ultimate cruelty of the institution. The organization didn't just drain your blood and strip you of your family. The system also forces you to permanently carry the widowhood of an entire anonymous generation on your back. Rank 7. Squadron Commander. The splintering of your joints has forced you deeper into the dark zones of the institution. You leave behind the silent wall of portraits, stepping straight into the invisible suffocation of the Tactical Operations Center. You become a Squadron Commander, rank 7. The organization hands you the most perfect machine of violence on the planet. 60 elite ghosts, gunships, and the CIA intelligence network. There are only 4 bureaucratic steps between you and the Oval Office. When the kill order comes down, you have to translate that soulless political language into a bloody tactical plan. You pave the way for your brothers to kick down the doors of death. 15 raids a night, relentlessly. Assault, exploit, move. The terror network is torn apart, piece by piece. But sitting in front of the cold satellite feeds, you witness a cruel truth that no report ever records. Psychological necrosis is devouring your squadron. Operators never complain. That is the unwritten law of the organization. But you see through the exhaustion eroding the depths of their eyes at every briefing. You see their reaction times slowing in the grainy drone footage. You feel the invisible weight crushing their chests every time they kit up. The most agonizing torment begins to drain your mind. Here, you are responsible for every bullet that cuts the wind, every body that drops. Watching the greatest warriors break down day by day, you are still forced to nod, continuing to push them into the gun barrel. Supreme power is not the glory of victory. It is the silent ruthlessness of bearing the total human cost of an endless war, and permanently burying that guilt beneath the hollow shell of authority. Rank 8. The retiree. The accumulated fatigue from tens of thousands of life-or-death decisions finally crashes the machine. You leave behind the blinking satellite screens, turning in your weapons and your credentials. After 20 years submerged in the dark, the institution spits you out. You become a retiree, rank 8. The departure happens with chilling silence. No parades, no press releases. Your military record is perfectly sanitized, listing only a single, benign line about staff duty at Fort Bragg. Every target you ever eliminated, every life you ever saved is permanently wiped from human history. The organization is done using you, and you officially cease to exist. You cling to reality by working as a contractor for the CIA, or running security for a private corporation. The salary triples, but the emptiness in your soul remains the same. You try to mimic being a normal person. You sit in traffic. You go watch your daughters play. You go to the supermarket. And then, a reality fracture strikes right in the middle of a brightly lit aisle. You stand in line right behind a man who is screaming, cursing at the cashier just because of an expired coupon. Your chest constricts. Your nervous system betrays you. In that exact second, your brain replays the bloody film of that last nameless compound. You vividly see the terrorist hiding behind the door. You remember exactly the break of the trigger. 2 in the chest, 1 in the head. You had coldly stepped over that soaked corpse to keep moving. Now, watching this civilian lose his mind over a few petty dollars, 2 realities collide violently. You realize you are permanently exiled from the normal world. No peacetime therapist can cure a necrotic trauma that never shows up on an X-ray. You give up on reintegrating. You call your old teammates. You seek each other out, burrowing into the darkest corners of dive bars. Men sitting with their backs to the wall, eyes scanning the exits, gnawing on a silence that the rest of humanity will never be able to comprehend. Rank 9. The cycle. Your broken silence in the corner of that dark bar is not the end. The institution never dies. The giant machine spitting you out was just a necessary pause for it to restart a new, ruthless rotation. Right at this moment, in a pale hallway at Fort Liberty, a sergeant from the 75th Ranger Regiment stands glued to the bulletin board. He is 26 years old, 4 deployments. A purple heart pinned to his chest. He is the best in his battalion. The arrogance of youth burns in every muscle fiber. His eyes are glued to the paper with no insignia. His mind rewinds memories of the men in civilian clothes, appearing at the FOB like ghosts and vanishing, leaving nothing behind but brass casings. He craves that invisible power. Looking through the lens of 20 necrotic years, your chest tightens with a silent pity. He is completely blind to this blood-soaked contract. That bureaucratic notice doesn't contain a single line about the knee cartilage that will shatter under the tactical armor. He has yet to understand the emptiness of divorce papers lying cold on the dining table. He especially cannot imagine the moment reality fractures in a brightly lit supermarket, when the brain is permanently trapped with the image of an enemy's pool of blood. But the most exceptional soldiers always voluntarily dive headfirst into the darkest abyss. They are obsessed with proving themselves. They need to know if they are good enough to survive. The organization will answer that question. It will wring out his youth and chew up his humanity perfectly. He memorizes the selection date. His footsteps echo decisively, then fade away. The brutal cycle of the ghosts officially begins all over again.